Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Societal Narcissism, and this video is sponsored by contribution from Simon. Simon gave a general contribution, but left in the notes he wanted more of the boomer videos. So, a little different here. Came across this channel, but she's your mother. This girl has about 2,300 subscribers, and she appears to be a Gen Xer who is also calling out these channels of estranged parents and to beware of them. And I have two videos of hers. It's about 15 minutes worth of videos that I want to go through. They're very good. They're very telling. And I wanted to do something where if I could give some attention to a smaller channel, show like I'm not like just this anti-woman type of person, and the show like I'm not the only one calling this out, get some other perspectives, it might be a good thing. So let's get into it, shall we?
I want to talk about the creators out there who talk about parental alienation and the creators out there who are estranged from their children because they're toxic. And the reason that I want to talk about this is because of the fact that the creators out there who are estranged, that are toxic, that are claiming parental alienation, are guiding people in a direction that ensures that their children never speak to them again. And it's because those parents who are estranged due to parental alienation are looking for safety and reassurance and trying to figure out how to live life without their children right now. And I say right now because the parents who are alienated, not the ones who were toxic, not the ones who were emotionally abusive, but the ones who were alienated because the other parent is the toxic parent, a lot of times I see those children come back.
Right. So she's trying to make the difference between those of us who have been alienated because of toxic people and these people, these estranged parents who have been gone no contact with because they're toxic. And you don't want people who are seeking support for legitimate parental alienation due to toxicity being talked to by these estranged toxic boomers who are just going to give them awful advice to never take any responsibility for anything, so their children never actually talk to them again.
But if you follow the advice of these creators who are diminishing the experiences of their children who have gone no contact because they're toxic, when your children do give you that chance, you're going to blow it.
Right. Because what I've been calling out are these estranged parents who want to take zero responsibility for their actions, take zero responsibility for their abuse, okay, and put it all on the children without validating, without even a thought of validating any of their offspring's feelings and thoughts of abuse and what they are saying. It's just to be completely discounted and disregarded.
And it's in a way not going to be your fault because you're being manipulated by toxic people. And that's one of the differences. Toxic people, they feel so powerful and that they have so much control over their children, and they do when their children can't walk away, that they're short-sighted and they don't see the future. They don't see their children as individuals. They don't want to see them as individuals.
No, they see them as property, as possessions, as pets to be controlled. Like a dog you call and snap, and then the dogs are supposed to be obedient. They demand blind obedience is what these estranged toxic channels are really talking about. They're talking about blind obedience.
They see them as lifelong tools. And then when they walk away, they blame shift. It's the internet's fault.
Yep.
It's people like me and my message.
And me and my channels. We brainwash them when they're the ones who've been brainwashing them their entire lives. They demand blind obedience Because when you're giving them blind obedience, you can't hold them accountable for any of their actions. But like dogs who've been abused their entire lives, eventually we snap back. And then they want to take zero responsibility for why did this dog snap back at you? Was it because you've been fucking with it its entire life? You've been neglecting it? You've been kicking it? You've been screaming at it? You've been dragging it around? It's been an inconvenience to you until you want something out of it? Zero responsibility. They demand blind obedience.
It's, that they didn't get what they wanted one day. It's a minimization of the trauma that they went through. It's everything and everybody else's fault, and none of the responsibility or accountability lies with them.
Ever.
That's one of the ways you can tell.
Ever.
If you look through their videos and the only thing they're saying is here and there, I apologize for what I might have done, or I know I made mistakes, and I know that I said the wrong thing even after I was told not to, and I did it anyway. That's how they sort of take ownership.
I did it anyway. Why did you do it anyway? Why did you say these things? This is what they think they can give you, some kind of vague apology, some kind of half-hearted, half-assed apology, which isn't really an apology anyway, and you should accept it. Like a bone. Here's a milk bone. Now show me blind obedience again.
But ownership also means changing behavior, and that's not something they did. Those parents who are toxic will do things and say things to paint their children as not being so great.
Exactly. Like you were manipulative out of the womb. Like the video before this that I posted, the woman was saying, manipulative out of the womb. Manipulative, aggressively manipulative at 2 years old. You were born that way.
They may not smear campaign them in the big way, but they'll drop little seeds like, when so-and-so was a teenager, they did a lot of drugs and it really altered their brain chemistry, and that's why they don't talk to me anymore.
And how many times have I talked about it? She got it. She understands it, this girl. I mean, give her a follow, subscribe to her. She knows what she's talking about. She understands those toxic seeds that the narcissist plants to be sprouted up later, to be used against you. It's like, oh yeah, remember when she told us back then how she was as a child and this and that, and then you're the bad guy. She knows what she's talking about. She's clearly been through it, as you're going to see from the next video of hers I'm going to show you.
It won't be my child was self-medicating, which, by the way, they shouldn't be disclosing either, because they were going through a lot of stress and trauma created by me. It won't be that.
Right, exactly. They're self-medicating. They're on it, but why? It's a response to your abuse that you just don't want to take any responsibility for. Now, can you be the greatest parent in the world and you still have a child become addicted to something? Sure. But 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, they're self-soothing. They're self-medicating. They're trying to escape the abuse and the horrible feelings and the low self-esteem that has been fucking implemented, that has been put upon them by their toxic narcissistic parents.
Or they were always, a little bit sneaky, or they were very manipulative as a child, or...
There we go, manipulative again. She gets it, which is what the last boomer just said. You were manipulative out of the womb.
Very emotionally sensitive.
You're too sensitive.
Didn't say anything, or they were a difficult child, or they were always problematic. But they'll say them in ways that are kind of like, I really had to put up with so much, and
Poor
I
me.
still showed up as the best parent I could be. And then they'll say things like, emotional abuse. They don't know what trauma looks like, and minimize that adult child's experience.
Right. And look, most of your boomer parents, okay, or whoever, your toxic parents, boomer or otherwise, were abused as children. They were abused too. This is where they learned it from. Okay, but they think if they, just as long as they don't do exactly what their parents did to them, then somehow they're better. And now their abuse is more valid than your abuse. And you have nothing to complain about because this is what my parents did, X, Y, and Z, and I didn't do X, Y, and Z, so you don't know what actual abuse is.
Those parents aren't estranged because of parental alienation.
Right.
Those parents are estranged because of their own toxic behaviors, because they haven't done the work that they need to do to repair those relationships.
And they'll never do the work because they will take zero responsibility. They will remain on their high horse and they will die on their high horse.
When those children were asking them, where they say, oh, I didn't know it was going to happen. But those children were throwing up boundaries and saying, hey, look, I need you not to do these things. They hurt. And they did them anyway.
Right, because boundaries are meaningless. Boundaries to them are meant to be violated because you're an obedient pet. They demand blind obedience.
Or, I'm having memories that I would like to process with you. Oh, you don't know what trauma looks like. Those parents are not alienated parents.
Do you know how many times my mother had to say, if you have no idea what it was like in my house, you think you got it so bad. My father too. My father would say the same shit. If you had my father and this and that, you wouldn't be able to handle it. I know what real abuse is. Fuck you, bud. Fuck you. And I told him, if you were getting abused, it's because you deserved it. Okay, you deserved it.
They don't have their children in their lives because they are not willing to do the work they need to do to show up as people who are not toxic and still creating trauma and drama for their adult child. The alienated parents, they don't eviscerate their children's reputation. I'm not saying that we don't all at points in time, call the best friend and go, oh my God, can you believe what so-and-so did? That's not eviscerating your child's reputation.
Exactly. I mean, I'm alienated from my daughter. Do you ever hear me eviscerate her reputation? I've said things here and there, which is, concerning as a parent, where I'm seeing things at 20 years old, that how she reads and writes, which is just mind-boggling to me. I'm not eviscerating her character. Okay? That's on her mother, who's supposedly a school teacher.
That's talking about a moment in time and a behavior. The parents who have been alienated will not speak about their children in ways that give other people permission to view them in a negative light. They will not do that. They will talk about the parent who alienated. But even when they do that, watch their language. Listen. They're doing it in ways to share their experience, to talk about the pain that they're going through, and hoping their children come back. They're not doing it in ways that create a situation where their children hate them for talking about their parent. They're careful. Do you know why? Because they're thinking long term.
See, my problem is, not only do I have my ex-wife putting things in my daughter's head, I had both my parents. Now that my mother's dead, she's gone. Okay, so she just stayed within the toxicity up there because, of course, when I got a divorce, my parents went and took my ex-wife's side. Because, of course, they did.
They're hopeful that their children will come back, and in the meantime, they're learning how to live life without them and respect that child's boundaries. That's the other difference. They have no problem continuing to respect a boundary that they don't like because they want to be with their children. They're seeking out resources to repair their relationship. And my concern is that in seeking out those resources, they're attaching to parents who are not them, who are estranged because their behaviors are toxic. So if you're one of those parents who have gone through parental alienation and you are looking at different creators, watch for how they speak about their children.
Exactly. I mean, if you're dealing with parental alienation, though nobody should be watching them, but especially if you've been going through parental alienation, because they'll get you to trash your own kids, make you think the kid is the fault, is the problem, and that's not it. That's not it at all.
Go through their videos and make sure they're consistent, because people who are toxic can't maintain the truth.
Exactly.
Look for those clues before you attach to those creators. If they're saying things like you never have to apologize, you never have to validate, you're in the wrong place.
Yep.
Because that's an absolute guarantee that you will never get your child back. And as a therapist, I can tell you that I have a lot of adult survivors of child abuse who married toxic people.
I didn't realize she was actually a therapist. Okay.
Who have ended up being alienated, who have gotten their children back. Because in adulthood, when we start to gain life experience and contrast and have our own romantic relationships, we're able to look and go, oh, wait a minute, I might be with the wrong parent. And reach out to the parent who is the one they should have been attached to. It doesn't happen all the time, obviously.
You can only hope. You can only hope that one day they realize what you were talking about, and the relationship can be fixed.
But it does happen a lot. And if when that happens and you get that opportunity, you're able to meet them with the validation that they're looking for, you're going to be able to repair that relationship, because you weren't the original abuser. You weren't the abuser at all. You were a victim of circumstance.
This is the type of therapist you want. When I say, and I always said I'm not anti-therapist, there's just a lot of bad therapists out there. A lot. Finding the right therapist is crucial, and she knows what this woman knows what she's talking about. Her channel is But She's Your Mother. So let's look at the second video, where what a lot of therapists don't do when you're in therapy is they don't tell you anything about their personal life. They're not giving you that personal validation of your story, so you don't think that you're just this crazy person with a story that nobody can relate to. No, she'll tell you her story, and you'll pretty much find it's pretty similar to your own. So this one's a shorter video. It's about 4 minutes long, and it's kind of wild. So let's just get into it. I became the family liar at 5 years old, and we've all heard that one. How you're the liar, you're incapable of telling the truth, yada yada, so on and so forth.
I was 5 years old when my mother dropped me out of a 2-story window.
Jesus Christ.
It was 1971. Her and my brother were having an argument over a package of cigarettes. She wanted him to go to the store, and back then...
All right, so she's 5 in 1971, so she's a couple years older than me. So she's Gen X, obviously a boomer mother, fighting over cigarettes. You don't get more boomer than that.
Kids could go buy cigarettes for their parents.
Yeah,
their parents
could
would just give them a note.
Yep. If you even needed a note back then.
As they were arguing, my mother told me to go up the stairs and put my hand out the window to see if it was raining, which I did. I yelled down that it was drizzling, and she didn't like my answer. She came up the stairs and she said, "Put your arm out, check properly," which I did. And I responded again that it was raining. She told me to lean out further, to put both my hands out the window, which again I did. The next thing I knew, my mother had picked me up and was holding me by my legs. I felt her let go. To this day, I can remember the sensation of the fall, the smell of the rain in the air. I have zero memory, thankfully, of impact, which was on the grass, which had been softened by the rain. My next memory is of my mother putting me in my blankie and into a taxi, and I passed out again. She never called an ambulance. Authorities were never made aware that this accident had occurred.
And authorities back then could have cared less. I mean, this is why so many Gen Xers are screwed up at the hand of boomers, because they could hide it. And let me tell you something. She was having the argument with her brother, who she was trying to get to go to the store and buy her cigarettes. So who does she take her anger out on? Her daughter, who she probably hated and competed with her entire life, as a message to the daughter, as a message probably to the son, you're going to go to the store or I'm going to drop you out the window next.
In the hospital, I woke up with casts on both of my arms, holding my arms in a straight position. Only my thumb and my fingers were free, and the cast went right underneath my armpits.
Jesus.
This marks the beginning of my living with my grandparents, who created my mother. I ended up with them for 4 years.
So they must have taken her away at that point. Like, how do you let a 5-year-old, even if she fell, which she didn't, or dropped, it's complete negligence. But now they're going to make her live with the grandparents who created the mother. Wonderful. Wonderful.
It also marks the beginning in my conscious memory of me becoming the scapegoat in the family.
Of course.
The family joke. Oh, she was trying to fly like Supergirl. The story that my mother spun was that I was playing on a toy box that I was not allowed to be playing on, that I knew better, and I fell out the window. There was no toy box and nobody questioned her.
This is like when my brother broke his clavicle at 2-3 years old, because my mother was never paying attention to him. Me, she'd beat the shit out of him. She just never paid attention to. So, like I said, he was constantly seriously injuring himself. On that, he accused him of trying to play Superman and fly over a stool. When what really happened was he had climbed up on the stool while she was on the phone trying to get something off the countertop, fell off, broke his collarbone. He'd also cracked open his chin. He had eaten an entire bottle of baby aspirin, had to have his stomach pumped. Drank kerosene, all while under the neglectful watch of mostly my mother and sometimes my father. I'm sure there's things I'm also forgetting about. Oh, there was the time they weren't paying attention to him while we were playing at my Uncle Freddie's house in the basement. Weren't paying attention. He crawled underneath me. I fell back, fell on top of him, and cracked his chin open a second time. They tried to come after me. You know, my father tried to beat the shit out of me, and then my Uncle Kenny's like, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault, but it didn't matter. And it got so bad, and I told you, I think it was after the baby aspirin incident that DYFS showed up at the house, Division of Youth and Family Services for Jersey. And they wanted to take us out. But my father was he was a fast talker, and they told him, if he gets injured again, if there is another injury in this house, you're going to lose it. We're going to take these kids. And at that point, they had to pay attention more.
My aunts, somewhere around this time, also began calling me the liar. I don't know if I tried to tell the truth about the story or if I divulged anything. I don't feel like I did.
Probably, in case you did. You didn't necessarily have to say anything. It was those planting those seeds in case you ever did. Okay, like she said in her last video, where they go around planting the seeds against you. It's the same thing. It's just planting seeds in case you did come out with the truth.
I just know that this is the time period that marks who I became within my narcissistic family system. I have been no contact with my family, with those relatives, for over 30 years.
Rightfully so.
I will be sharing in the upcoming videos my experiences, the dynamics within the family, and the things that you would like to know and hear about. I would love for you to email me the topics that you would like me to cover, how I got to a place of healing and peace, questions that you have. Maybe you need some advice and would like to have your letter featured. It will be anonymous. I would love to hear from you. I'm really lucky to be here. I'm lucky to be alive. I share my story because I was alone for so long. And I grew up feeling like nobody else knew what I was going through. And as an adult, and because of the blessings of the internet, I've come to know that I was never alone. That was the gaslighting.
Yep.
So please join me on my journey, and let's all continue to heal together.
And like I said, finding the right therapist is crucial. And listen, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I yell, I scream, I curse a lot, I say things pretty bluntly. I don't know her. She didn't contact me. I just came across her videos, and you know, I watched these two. She's only got 2,300 subscribers, so give her. But she's your mother. Check her out. Check out her videos. You know, if you don't necessarily want to write into me, write into her. She seems like she's got a good grasp on it. She's talking. She's a therapist talking from personal experience. So you get that validation, and I'm always happy, you know, if I see people doing the right thing and doing good, is to bring attention to that. But you know, obviously this is a licensed therapist calling out the same thing I'm calling out with. She's not calling them boomers, obviously, okay, but toxic parents, okay, who've been gone no contact with, who are now making themselves out to be the victim on the internet. You know, I'm glad I'm not the only one seeing it. So, and I'm glad it's another Gen Xer calling it out as well, because I'm sure we have similar stories. So, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you to Simon for the contribution. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you want to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with either the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, be sure to subscribe to both my Rumble channels. Follow me on Twitter and Telegram as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Societal Narcissism. Take care, everyone.